was walking by my shelf, seen this locomotive sitting there. Like, well, I haven't fixed this one up yet. A Bachmann 3509. I don't know if you guys know this, but when I do one of these restorations, I haven't worked on these before. Me and you are going through it at the very first time together. You know, I can edit out some of the things that I, messed up on, but this one has a little bit of a surprise on the inside of it. Let's dig into it and find out what it is. Well, let's see if this old girl will even run. Putting 7 volts to it right now. Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay, well, she's needing a good servicing right there, yep. Well, this GP-40, it's got some hand railing damage, really delicate little hand railings. It does seem to have 8-wheel drive on it, though. That's kind of a bonus. One broken coupler back over here. Yeah, completely missing a coupler up over here. Let's get this shell off here. This fuel tank cover, it's press fit on there. Carefully kind of get up underneath of it and give it some pryings. Oh, sure. Holy moly. It's going to bring us down to these fellers. Pop these 2 screws out. What's going to happen next? Oh, we're right where we want to be. Oh, look at this. My goodness, that's a fancy Bachmann right there. It's one of the nicer ones I've ever seen. We want to get down into those trucks though. So we're going to have to take off this upper weight. Screw up here in the front. Screw here in the back. Couple screws here on this PC board. Yeah, long wires. That's nice. They've also included a couple little screws right up in here. Looks like it holds the trucks in. And I think just for giggles, I'm going to mark the front of this upper weight, the lower weight, just a little dot, because sometimes I like to just forget. You can take these wires off this board. Well, those aren't even soldered in there. They're just bent over. And then these little caps right here hold it in with friction. Well, that is a nice bonus. It's almost like the engineers cared. But that is super nice. Even this board has got a little mark on it, motor negative, motor positive, but of course it's hard to tell which one's what, so I'm just going to write it down. Motor negative is gray, motor positive, orange. Just some chicken scratchings to help a fella remember. So there's the light board out of there. Here is our weight out of there. Those screws are released from there, so our trucks, they'll come out. Small little drive lines, which seem to be held in to the truck. Our motor, it just came right out. Sealed up can motor. Not gonna be able to get in there, clean the brushes or nothing. What can we take apart on this truck? I want to get in there and root around. Gotta see how it works. A couple screws up here on the top. That little feller just kind of popped out. Here's a tab for these truck frames. Come in here, pry this truck frame backwards a little bit and down, and that gets our truck frame off. Oh, here's some gears. And none of them are broken so far that I can see. That's nice. These are held in. Little friction fit from these axle bearings right here. Nickel, silver wheels. And of course there's a lot of fur, dust in here. Yeah. Brass bushing right there on this pinion. Oh, this drive line. Friction fitted on the pinion right here, input shaft. How do these get so hairy? Aye. These idler gears in here, they've got these axles that they're riding on. They push out. Oh, sure. Engineers worked overtime on this one. Those pickups are sort of in the way of the middle gear, but it's doable. Oh, longer. That one's got a longer. Yeah, it sure does. And the final one right here. 2 longs and a short. Pop this middle gear out. Yeah. This front one. And this one that's buried all the way up in here. These two are the same size. This one's a little bigger. Well, I've been messing around with this pinion gear quite some time, and it looks like the shaft, would just pull out of here, and then you can remove the pinion gear. But there's also that possibility of it breaking. I don't want to break it. I am going to be able to successfully complete the cleaning process of all this with what I've got disassembled right now. So I'm going to Q-tip and toothpick and odorless mineral spirits this thing to death. So I can clean up all the grease off these gears. I can clean up these pickups right here that are on both sides. And then on these wheels, we're we're going to want to clean the axles, the back of the wheels, because that's where it gets its juice from. We want to clean the surface of the wheels right here. Make these shiny, check the gauge on them, clean everything up before we go on to the next step. Probably take, I suppose, half an hour per truck to get these shiny back into place. Well, this is our entire power truck assembly disassembled and cleaned. Cleaning these gears with the odorless mineral spirits. Dip this in, kind of wash them out like this with the old toothbrush. Scrubbed all the gears down inside of the wheels. Cleaned up all the scub. Also made sure to get these pickups here cleaned up. Oh, are they fragile? Golly, I'm having a heck of a time. You want them to stick out just a little bit because the friction, the outward force they put on the back of the wheels, that's what picks up the juice. But they are super fragile. Cleaned up this pinion gear the same way with the odorless mineral spirits. Got in there, got inside under here. Now we can try to reassemble it using my Super Lube multi-purpose synthetic grease. Not gonna take much. We got the big gear, we got the two gears. The big gear, it went in the center. I'm gonna do my best trying to lube up the inside where this pin is going to go. You know what? I'm gonna put the small ones in first. Lube up the inside of this shaft. This feller, he's gonna ride up, clear up here underneath the pinion. I'm gonna do my best to try to line up that hole with this toothpick till it looks like I got it about right. And right being 100% centered. Then we're gonna take the short pin. Now this is reminding me of one of those times that something's gonna launch across the room. I've just got that, it's be so easy to happen. Gently get that pin all the way through to both sides. Aha, yeah, sure. Yep, we're gonna do the same thing with the gear that goes up here in the front. Another one of these smaller ones. Get a little lube on the inside of this. Get that gear in there. Use a toothpick to help take one of these longer pins. Get her started and get her in there. Flush, yep, two of them gears. This big gear right here, same thing, little grease in there. Gently push her in. Now when we rotate our pinion, all of our gears are turning. Excellent time now. Get a little love on these little gears. Spin the pinion a little bit. Put another little coating on and repeat. Now, of course, the guy doesn't want to get too much grease in there, and there's no specific amount. I always like to say a little bit less than too much. You don't want it slinging around. You don't need to pack it like you're packing wheel bearings. This grease is going to stick to them teeth, and it'll spread itself out, and it won't drip off like a light oil will. Grease the gears, oil the bearings. Get these wheel sets in, but I'm going to give it just a little kiss where them axles ride. Making sure that our pickups stick out just a little bit right here. Push them in. Get the wheel set in, and then you can see how the pickups are just pushing against the backside of the wheels. Do the same over here. Now this guy, I don't think he's sticking out enough, so I'm going to just bring him out just a little more. Pop this feller in. I want a little grease on these axle gears, because they have yet to receive any. Our truck cover, it's only going to fit on one way. Latch it on the back side over here. It's got this pin. Put it in the truck, bring it around, squeeze it shut. Yep, our drive line was a friction fit onto this input shaft of this pinion. And the last thing I want to do is grease up this little pinion gear. Now this little feller that sits on top of the trucks, this little feller right here holds this pinion shaft and the bearing assembly in. This part right here, it's kind of a latch. See how there's teeth right up underneath of this? Down and in. Get your screws started and give them a snuggin'. And that is one truck cleaned up, serviced, ready to go. Nickel silver wheels, I didn't need to scrub on them to get the corrosion off because they don't get that dirty. Not like the brass ones do. So there's one. I do one at a time. In case you forget, you look at the one you didn't take apart and you can see what you forgot and put it back together right. Both of these trucks have been cleaned up and serviced. One thing I wanted to make sure to mention is to give this pinion shaft, give it a little love, a little lubrication on both sides of it. It's working hard for your enjoyment. Mark the front of my locomotive, remember, with those two little dots. Want to get our wires and our drive line up on the top part. Here's our motor. There ain't much I can do. It was clean. I'll maybe just give it just a little right here. We'll give it a little over on this side. Time these drive lines. You can see the little groove in the coupler end. It's got to be lined up with the cross brace on the drive line. Don't jam it. Hey, out of curiosity, Were you singing Jenny 8675309? Oh, sorry. I'll let myself out. Now this upper piece, remember I marked it, 2 dots there? Here's my 1 dot right there. We're gonna plumb all these wires back up through this top weight. Got these screws that hold the trucks in, these little fellers. Use this toothpick to line it up with the truck. Down below, you know, there's some forward and back that it could do. So you stick this toothpick in till you get it all aligned. Machine bolts, the ones you took in and out of the back and the front, put those back in. At this point, you should be back together looking like this. Your drive line's hooked up in there. Make sure your wires are all flowing free. They're not pinched in anything. Now these little screws that are on top up here, you can adjust the free play in these trucks. So don't crank them down tight. They got to be a little bit loose or else these trucks won't move. They won't turn like this. The reason I know this is because I just found out. Get them in there. See, now we don't got any play. And you're going to back them off. It's kind of like tuning an old blue box truck. See that? Yeah. So that's exactly what we wanted. This board's got to be bolted back down before a guy can do any decent work to it. Our DCC-Ready board. Using my cheat sheet here, everything I've written down. Motor positive, it's the orange one. There's our motor positive. Here's our orange wire. I found when I was trying to put these wires up underneath this board, that if these screws were left loose and you could tip this board up like this, it made it quite a bit easier, you know, to use your little, and put the wire through there. And then I tried these things here. When I was sliding it back on, all they did was break the wire, sheared off. And I'm like, well, dang it. I wasn't very impressed with that at all. So I decided to solder them on. Get your good iron out, get some thin solder, get in there and just give it a little touch. Psh, 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 psh. Soldered the wires back on. When you're really good at soldering, it's just so easy just to glue and unglue stuff like you wouldn't believe. Soldering, yes. Skill set to learn. Tighten these boogers up right here once again. Secure that board down. This thing's ready for the track. We can give her a test drive. See how she works. Classic model trains. This week's classic model. Do you know who that is? Put her in the comments down below. Wow, that's a noticeable improvement right there. Look at that. 5 volts. That thing is just kind of crawling right along. And quiet. Looks like both the lights come on though. Yeah. Forward and reverse. I thought maybe you'd have a fancy DCC board or DC mode where it would do directional lighting. This thing, it's got a great crawl speed. I ran it around the track for about 10 minutes. Kind of broke it all in a little bit, you know, made the gears just mesh up a little better. And I got it to crawl as good as this. We're down to 3 volts right now. Just crawling right along. Now here's something that I've never had the opportunity to test out. Since this one's DCC ready, let's throw a decoder in it. Let's see if it's got any better slow crawl speed. When I ran to town today, I picked up one of these. This thing is DCC ready, is what they call it. So this connector comes out right here. I've been told that this orange wire, it's number 1. This has got number 1 pin right there. Make sure you line up your number 1s or the blue smoke will rise. So this just simply pushes in right there. That's it. Good old DCC. Just pull it right out of the box and it just works. Indent, just, yeah. The lights are on, they shouldn't be. Oh my goodness. Hit the light. So pulling out the fancy directions, first words on this thing is it's plug and play. They say it's just so easy. Well, then you grab out your menu navigation chart and you go in there and you remember again how to reprogram the decoder. And after, you know, smoke and a beer, I got it reprogrammed and working. So yeah, this is the promise that they gave us with Windows 95. So simple to use. Yeah, oh my God. Anyway, let's get back to it. Slowest it will do is speed step 2 with a DCC decoder in it. And my lights, they're all or nothing. There's no forward or reverse to it. It just, you break my heart. So there's reverse speed step 2. Did you notice any difference in the crawls? I really didn't see much of a difference at all. But I do got to tell you, I'm running one of these Control Master 2.0s, 20, whatever it's called. It's a pretty high-end DC controller. It's got momentum and it's got brakes and it's got a lot of stuff on it. And I get a lot of fancy features, and I don't have to worry about my decoders being a pain in the butt for me. So I tried it. Now we know. Let's get some couplers, some new couplers put on that body. Get this thing mounted up. Bachmann likes to use these fake type of knockoff Cadies. They're plastic and they're not so much. See what they kind of got going on right here. If you get yourself, a Cadie, I put them in here. I'm using a 148. It's a whisker coupler because it's got these little whiskers on it. That's what they call it. Standard length. And it's going to fit right on top of that. This is just replacing the original one that was in here. So we can use the original hardware. Make sure that screw's not too tight, that the coupler, binds up. Up front here, it's, you see this plate right here. That's the original mounting plate supplied by Bachmann. Up front, it was missing. So I just put in some 256 by 1/4 inch machine threads, just screwed it in till we've got our coupler action doing what it's supposed to. Now, I tried gluing these railings together last night with my CA glue, and it didn't glue, is what I'm trying to say. These hand railings are so thin and so fine, I break them all the time just looking at it hard. Not my favorite kind. Maybe I'll look into seeing if I can get a new set of handrails, because it's missing these ones up here, these ones back here, so we're not going to be able to make her look real pretty. I'm going to take this DCC back out because I'm not fond of it. This was just an experiment. Nothing wrong, if you like it, that's great. That's, everybody's allowed to do their own thing. I just don't really enjoy it. There we go. Back to being DC only. Get all our wires out of the way. There is no extra room inside there for them wires. They have got to be completely on top. Put our 2 screws back in. Get our fuel tank cover on it, which doesn't say anything about it being DCC ready at all. See how nice it looks up on the track. Oh sure, yeah. She came out nice. That'll definitely get her done. Thanks so much for watching.